1989 is on record as an exceptionally busy year for Earth's extraterrestrial visitors, partly due to the then greatly increased flow of information from former Eastern Bloc countries. However, strange and often chilling encounters occurred all over the world, with here a selection of just some of those occurrences. Kopanskoye Lake, Leningrad, Russia. It was the evening of February 13th, 1989, when 3 drivers from the Leningrad Auto Park were embarking on a fishing trip. The 3 men, named Yuri Vasilyevich M., Sergei Yurovich T., and Alexander Viktorovich G., were about 130 kilometres from Leningrad and 40 kilometres from the town of Sosnovyi Bor, where a nuclear plant is located. Suddenly, Alexander spotted a UFO flying overhead, and then all of them noticed a strange white object in the sky which was 3 to 4 times larger than the biggest star. The object appeared to be moving in their direction, then suddenly made a sharp pivot to the east and continued flying. After observing the object for about 15 minutes, the witnesses lost interest until, sometime later, after they had set up camp and eaten, Yuri went into the woods to collect firewood. It was already dark as he walked the 40 or so metres along the lake's shore, then about 8 or 10 metres into the woods, where he suddenly noticed a landed, flat, disc-shaped object. He later described the object as beautiful, round with windows around its broadest section and made out of a dark material. Sitting about 30 to 40 metres away from him, the craft had matte light shining from its windows and lacked hatches and doors, its surface completely smooth, although some indentations were visible. Yuri felt no fear and stood staring at the object for about 20 seconds, deciding not to call his 2 friends in case it frightened them. Looking to the left of the object, he noticed a shadowy moving figure walking towards the back of the craft. He then observed a second figure on its right side, and a third figure standing between the first and second ones. He thought they might be leaving and briefly wondered if he could catch one of the aliens and place it in his car, but decided against it. The aliens moved slowly in silence, their craft also soundless. When one of the beings was about 10 metres from him, Yuri shouted to it in a friendly manner, indicating that he meant no harm. The aliens approached him in silence, with 2 of them getting very close while the third alien stood aside. The beings were generally humanoid, having tightly closed mouths with no lips, a proportional head and no visible hair. Their imperious faces showed severe concentration, and they were dressed in tight-fitting grey outfits. Yuri then saw a flash, like a photo flash, after which he felt pressure in his head and heard a voice in his brain. This voice was unpleasant, described as raspy and metallic in quality. It asked him, "What are you doing here?" To which he replied that he had come on a fishing trip with his friends. The voice asked him, "Would you like to come with us?" Yuri thought about the invitation and felt tempted until the voice said, "You will not return. We need to know what your inner structure is." Yuri promptly declined the offer, shaking his head. Then the alien voice stated in a threatening and imperious manner, "If you start a nuclear war, we will destroy you." Yuri then stated that hopefully humans would not start a nuclear war. At this moment, Yuri heard a loud buzzing sound which resembled a high-voltage wire. Seconds later, he was terrified to see a huge, shaggy humanoid figure which was about 3 to 4 metres in height, its head resembling that of a simian such as a gorilla. It towered above Yuri, even higher than the trees. The alien figures suddenly moved away from him, disappearing behind the trees. He was unable to see how they entered their ship, but the craft slowly and silently ascended before departing in a bright flash of light which illuminated the area around it. When the UFO rose up to about 4 meters, it suddenly disappeared, and Yuri believed that the huge, hairy, Bigfoot-type humanoid had also left with the aliens. This Type C encounter is recorded as one of several cases describing a definite connection between Bigfoot-type humanoids and UFOs. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit like. It really helps to keep the channel growing. And if you're new here, subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss our latest videos. We've got lots of strange and fascinating stories coming up, and we'd love to have you along for the journey. Reseda, California, US. Researcher Preston Dennett has documented the experiences of a family in Reseda, California. In 1989, the family was beset by a series of sightings of and abductions by grey-type aliens, which culminated in what UFO investigators refer to as a baby presentation. The main affected family member was daughter Kelly Robinson, who experienced 4 visitations in a row over a period of just a few months. While aliens are usually quite sparing in their conversational engagement, during each encounter, Kelly was able to communicate. On her first encounter, Kelly woke up to find 4 grey-type ETs grouped around her bed. One spoke telepathically with the reassurance, "Do not be afraid, come with us. You won't remember this." Kelly, aged 20, was a feisty and independent woman, and, as with 20% of abductees, she did remember. She was to recall being led into a small round room and placed on a table. The aliens told her that they were going to take her memory away so that she did not remember the experience, telling her not to be afraid, that they were not going to hurt her and that she would not remember. However, Kelly screamed at the beings, "Yes, I will!" An argument ensued, with the aliens insisting she would not remember and Kelly screaming that she would. The account goes that the beings then cut her arm. She awoke the next morning and immediately checked her arm, where a neat 2-inch scar was exactly where she recalled the aliens cutting her. 2 weeks later, the beings returned and again told her, "We're going to erase your memory." Kelly again screamed at them, "No, you won't, I'm going to tell." They again argued that she wouldn't, as her parents wouldn't understand. As Kelly again insisted that she would tell her father, they replied, "No, you'd better not." The aliens returned a few weeks later when, as usual, they tried to erase her recall of the incident. Again they told her that she would forget everything, but as usual, Kelly did have some memories of the events, although not specifically what they asked her or predicted would happen. She thought it may have been about her job, but this time found it hard to remember. On her 4th and final encounter, the ETs appeared and said, "We need to talk to you, come with us." Kelly again resisted and threatened to tell her father. They replied, "No, you cannot tell your dad." Kelly's final thoughts on the Greys were that she believed them to be religious and really not out to hurt humans, but to learn. She believed that they are afraid for us to remember their visits because they don't want abductees to tell others about them. Dennett also reported that Kelly's mother, Diane, also had an experience that she classified as a dream, but was clearly connected to other family UFO encounters. Diane recalled being led into a room where she was shown babies who had been genetically altered. UFO researcher Bud Hopkins first uncovered these rare cases involving abductees who are requested to hold and nurture babies that seem to be half alien and half human. Usually there is little information exchanged, but Diane was given a brief explanation. She experienced being taken to a room where she witnessed a large structure shaped like a Christmas tree, but in the place of the branches there were incubators occupied by babies. Diane was told to choose a baby and hold it, but she refused because the babies looked deformed. She stated every single one of them had something wrong with them, and the ET said it was sad as it wasn't planned that way. The ET present told Diane that they had everything but love and said, "That's why I would like you to take one and love it. The babies have problems and are different, but they still need love." Diane felt unable to overcome her repulsion and refused to hold a baby. It was after this incident that all the UFO encounters of the Robinson family ended. Rotorua, New Zealand. Alec Newald says that in mid-February 1989 he was abducted by aliens and transported to an advanced extraterrestrial civilization where he stayed for 10 days. It was a Monday morning when businessman Alec Newald set out on what would have normally been a 3-hour drive from Rotorua to Auckland. His experience during that journey changed his concept of the universe forever. After driving the windy, foggy mountain route, he arrived in Auckland, feeling somewhat tired and confused, then was completely stunned to realise that he had lost 10 days, spent he had no idea where. Speaking on a US paranormal broadcast, As You Wish Talk Radio, he recalled the moment of being plucked from that winding mountain road. He said that it felt like a ton of bricks had landed on him, as if someone had poured cement on him. He felt like he was pushed into the car seat, feeling paralysed and unable to turn the wheel, apply the brakes, or do anything. He related zooming down the road at 100 kilometres per hour towards a cliff face at that time, and could only brace for the impact. He claims to have woken in a cavernous space, which was filled with flashing blue neon lights. Now convinced that he was dead, he believed he was in spirit form and experiencing the afterlife. He described feeling like a wispy ghost with no form at all, and able to maneuver himself by moving his consciousness forward or sideways. Then, feeling surrounded by other spirit forms, he claims to have felt a tap on the shoulder. Over time, he remembered being escorted aboard a massive craft by a female humanoid, then led to a room where he was told to wait. Soon he was approached by 3 humanoids, one tall and resembling the previous female humanoid, the second a bit shorter and male, and the third much smaller. The short humanoid walked ahead of the other 2 and was described as slightly built with a round head and unusual squinty eyes, which were wide apart and positioned lower than those of humans. The being had a very small mouth, no ears, and a nose which was barely noticeable. Despite the being's diminutive stature, Newald was struck with an overwhelming feeling of his presence, as if this alien's energy was being projected and absorbed by his own body. The small humanoid said, "Welcome," and informed Newald that he was the designated guardian of that section. The humanoids communicated telepathically, and Alec found himself clothed in a bright glowing garment that enhanced his understanding of them and his own self-expression. As he moved along, he claims to have seen physical structures emerging, which looked like buildings, while the entities guiding him there began to take physical form. He said they then told him to step inside a machine that would, quote, build a body for him, and he watched his body forming beneath him. On the radio show, he said that the extraterrestrials were trying to reconstruct themselves to enable them to exist on Earth. In this other world, the endless sprawling metropolis along a coastline, witnessed by Newald, was very clean and orderly. As the craft had landed, he noticed that the city lacked any tall buildings and that most of its organic-looking construction comprised pyramid-shaped dwellings made of what seemed like some kind of transparent material, resembling tinted glass. He also viewed large spiraled antenna-like structures. Some of the buildings were similar to those on Earth, but the outer walls sloped back at a 30-degree angle and were set back some distance at each floor level, graduating upwards like steps on a hill. These appeared to be the occupants' dwellings, and were mostly circular or tubular in shape, and often topped with orbs. The colour scheme inside the buildings was mainly a pearl white with a touch of silvery grey, and radiating a soft light from within. Alec's living quarters had rounded walls which moved and adapted to his needs. After learning a great deal about human history within the universe, as well as the technology and culture of the aliens, Newald was returned to his home planet and to his vehicle. Once home, as he pieced together his memories and spoke of his experience, he claims that he began to feel surveilled, and that there were interferences in his life. He was approached by officials wanting to find out about his experiences, and especially about the capabilities of the extraterrestrial species he had encountered. He found himself entrapped in a bogus business deal by a perpetrator who simply vanished, and, on refusing to convey all details of his encounter with authorities, ended up facing financial ruin and jail time. He later told ET enthusiasts at UFO Research New South Wales Incorporated that his experience has gone on to dominate his life ever since. Newald states that before his abduction, he had never even thought about UFOs nor ever taken drugs. Now he found that the more he tried to share the information he had learned, the harder his life became.